Welcome back to the 1989 U.S. Gymnastics Challenge. I'm Leandra Riley along with Bart Connor, and we are at the Denver Coliseum. These are the semifinals. And after one event, a very close matchup here between Brandy Johnson and Margaret Hewlett. Just 1/10 of a point difference between these two ladies. The men have moved, however, to their third event. Lance Ringnold and Kyle Lozano after two. Well, it's Ringnold on top by a 1.5 margin. Still rings is next. Our first man up will be Lance Ringnold.
With still rings.
Typical of the Lance Ringnold style, he does every trick in the book on the rings. He needs to make sure he's really locked out in his handstands because he tends to get just a little loose late in the exercise. But once again, the guy can do everything. Those are the leather hand guards with the dowel rods that help improve your grip on some of the giant swinging elements. You have to do strength moves like that. Back kip around to a cross. Locate back up rise to the hand. He's not quite locked out in the handstand. He needs to show a really tight line there. It's a good combination. Those two moves back to back were called a Yamawaki to a whippet. And then he rolls around to that position, which was first introduced in international competition by Gennady Kresin from the Soviet Union. Hollow back, notice he's just a little loose there. He needs to hold that line locked out. Very pretty layout double. He'll score very well with that routine.
At the Junior Pacific Alliance just 1 year ago, this man finished first in the all-around and tied for third on the rings.
This is a really good combination. Coming out of a rather weak handstand, he really swings into this piked Yamawaki to a whippet, which is actually invented by another Japanese gymnast, Honma. A lot of funny names. I know the terminology sounds pretty crazy, but this one's pretty easy. This is a laid-out double backflip. Not a difficult term for that, and certainly performed beautifully by Lance Ringnold.
Certainly very descriptive. The score for Lance Ringnold, 9.65. That's the exact same score he achieved in the preliminary round. And now Kyle Lozano has his work cut out for him. The 17-year-old from Redwood City, California, will try to better the mark he achieved in the first round of 8.65.
Rings is a very difficult event for the young junior gymnast because it takes an incredible amount of upper body strength that you many times just have to mature into. Kyle had trouble in the qualifying rounds here on rings. Good start, kip to cross, and a back kip to a handstand. There's a giant, he's swinging a little bit. Whippet swing handstand. You can see he doesn't quite have the polish that we saw Lance Ringnold show. He can do a lot of swing elements, but he doesn't quite have the control. As you can see here in the handstand, he's not quite locked out. His hands are turned in. But he knows how to swing. He can do good swing elements, and as he gets a little bit older, he'll get a little stronger and be in more control on the strength elements.
And the high school senior, who stands 5 feet 5 inches tall, dismounts from the rings.
He bails forward here. Does a Yamawaki in the pike position, the same move that we saw Lance Ringnold do. Back up rise to an L. He presses to the handstand. As you can see here, he's having trouble controlling the rings. His hands are turned in and his arms aren't completely locked out.
Once they start swinging, what can you do to stop them?
Well, if you have to bail at the right side of the swing so that you can compensate for the swing and kill it at the bottom, and he did that beautifully, setting up for the dismount.
The score for Kyle Lozano's ring performance, 9.10, a much better number than he received in the preliminary rounds, but still not quite good enough to overtake Lance Ringnold. And now we are ready for the second event for the women. And you are looking at Margaret Hewlett, who is standing by the uneven parallel bars. She is just 5 feet 1 inches tall, and although she was born in St. Louis, her hometown is Lee Summit, Missouri.
Kip cast handstand pirouette. Now she's at the high bar. Reverse hex, she's in a little close, but she handles it. She has to traverse both bars. She works some elements on the high bar, goes down to the low bar, picks back up to the high bar here with the giant to a pike double back. Oh, over rotated.
Margaret Hewlett, coached by Al Fong.
The reverse hecht, you can see she does a straddle back over the bar, and she's in really close. Just barely makes it over. This straddle back, and she goes back to make a transition to the low bar, then she's back up on the high bar for her pike double backflip. Good height, really tight pike, and she pulls it around just a little too far.
What a dubious assignment to draw Brandy Johnson in the semifinals. Her score for her uneven parallel bar routine, 9.0. Again, this is her opponent, Brandy Johnson. In the preliminary round, Brandy Johnson set records on all events: the vault, the uneven, the balance beam, the floor exercise, breaking standards that were set back in 1981 and 1982. This is a very explosive event for Brandy. However, it is certainly one of her most inconsistent events. Wait till you see these high-flying moves. Right to the handstand. Nice reverse hecht. That's the best I've seen it. There's the front. See, she's in a little tight there. Cast handstand pirouette. She fulfilled the requirement of working the low bar. Giant half-half, giant to a really high tuck double. Boy, she's powerful. What a routine by Brandy Johnson. And she deserves that hug from Kevin Brown. She's the lady who finished highest among U.S. competitors at the Olympic Games in Korea.
This reverse hecht is really hot. She's not only high, but look at the perfect form. She transitions right here to a front between the bars, and she's in very close. But she does a good job at not breaking the rhythm and keeping it moving. Tough stuff. She did a giant full over the top to another giant to this tuck double back, which is just off the ceiling. She just kicks out and sails in the landing.
The score for Brandy Johnson's performance, 9.80. She has a commanding lead now over Margaret Hewlett. It's 9/10 of a point.